Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast. With your hosts, Ashley and Michael, please sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast presented by the Undroppables and sponsored by Analyst Depot. I am your host, Ashley. This is my lovely co-host, Michael Duncan. How are you?
I'm doing just dandy, Ashley.
I can tell by the Phillies hat.
Yes, they're in the World Series.
No.
Do you know the last time a Philly team was a massive underdog in a championship game playing a team made up of former and maybe current cheaters?
Let me guess. Was Nick Foles around?
Yes, in 2017. And for some reason, as much as the entire country loves to hate us, they were forced to cheer for us to beat the New England Patriots. Just like now, according to a poll done by someone, 88% of the country is rooting for the Philadelphia Phillies in the World Series.
Because nobody likes the Astros.
Exactly. It's great.
Did you see the photos circulating around of the World Series last year when Jalen Hurts wore his Astros gear?
That was not from the World Series last year.
Oh, what was it from?
That was from his rookie year.
Gotcha. Sorry,
and he will be cheering for the Phillies, by the way.
Yes, I didn't know he said that.
In an interview.
I do know he said that. I saw the photos though, and I guess the caption on the tweet was wrong. But
well, of course, because people are just trying to piss people off.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a city,
but they're recirculating those photos now that it's Phillies Astros.
Of course.
Of course they would.
Yeah.
We have lots to talk about. I'm going to jump right in. I know we have a longer segment today, so I do want to get started. Starting with the news, Matt Ryan is officially benched as of right now for the rest of the season for Sam Ehlinger. Since 2008, you sent me the tweet that says since 2018, the Colts have paid out $145 million to 12 different quarterbacks in 4 years.
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
You sent me that tweet. What are you talking about?
Oh, did I? I thought you sent that to me.
You're just like needlessly giving me credit for doing nothing.
You could have just taken the credit.
No, I don't want that credit.
Well, I sent it to you then. Smart on me.
A lot of money for a lot of really bad performance.
Yeah. Not the best.
Not to and that doesn't even count for the number of draft picks. Used to acquire some of those quarterbacks. So
yeah. Lots of money and lots of potential wasted. Speaking of sitting quarterbacks, Mac Jones, Patriots quarterback, made his return this week after that scary ankle sprain, which looked a lot worse than it was. He came back at home on Monday Night Football this week. It was short-lived as he was benched for Zappe in the first quarter after a very loud stadium booing him and chanting to put in Zappe. Zappe did have he had a very good few drives after he was first put in. Towards the end of the game wasn't as good. Mac Jones is expected to start again this week. Speaking of chants, there were chants at FedEx Field this week to sell the team. And FedEx Field is home of the Washington Commanders.
If we're being honest, I believe those chants happen every single week.
Yes,
because
but this one was
sucks.
Very big.
And everyone knows it.
Yeah. Aaron Donald has ended his partnership.
People that suck.
Speaking of people that suck, we're having some really good segues today. Speaking of people who suck, Aaron Donald has ended his partnership with Kanye West's Donda Sports in light of Kanye West's recent anti-Semitic comments, rightfully so.
Did you know that Antonio Brown was the president of Donda Sports?
I didn't know until he tweeted out that he's officially staying on as president, which does not surprise me in the slightest.
They both suck.
Yeah. Did you see his tweet this week that said Tampon Bay?
He tweeted a lot of things this week.
Yeah, he did tweet Tampon Bay instead of Tampa Bay. Honestly,
he called Tom. He called Tom something else too, which
was in that same tweet.
Yeah,
but honestly, if we're talking insults, that was like a pretty good one.
Oh, honestly,
Tampon Bay.
Oh, Tom Booty.
Yes.
And then he tweeted out a picture of Tom Brady.
Head photoshopped on.
Well, and body photoshopped onto Antonio Brown shirtless as he was running off the field.
Yes.
Antonio Brown is so screwed up. Yeah. And that is not funny. The fact that he is definitely suffering from some form of CTE, he has to be.
I agree.
But the results, while most of the time extremely inappropriate, in this specific case, fairly harmless and very funny.
Yes.
Not the anti-Semitic stuff. That's bad.
Not the anti-Semitic stuff.
Strictly
not the
Tampon Bay
exposing
and
himself
Tom
in a in
No.
Dubai. Not that stuff. But
strictly the Tom Booty.
Tom Booty and Tampon Bay. That one will live in my head forever.
Oh, I need to go change his sleeper nickname to Tom Booty. Why
Oh,
haven't I
gotcha.
already done that?
2 referees were the subject of an internal investigation by the NFL after a video surfaced of them seemingly asking Mike Evans for an autograph. They found that those, charges were unfounded. They did not specify what the referees were actually doing, but the NFL, some sort of, I think I wrote this wrong, but a media outlet reported that they were, NFL Network reported that one of the referees went to A&M, same as Evans, and wanted to get Evans's phone number to give to a golf pro so Mike could get golf lessons. So apparently he didn't have his phone on him, didn't have a card, so the other referee gave him a card so he could write his number down. I don't know. There were just, claims being made, and the video did look pretty bad.
It looked horrible.
Horrible. So they cleared that up in some ways, I guess. I still think it's a little bit odd, but
I mean, I will say the 1 week that it's believable is this week.
Yeah.
They scored 3 points against the Panthers.
Yeah,
I
agree.
3 points.
In other news, not new news, Russell Wilson is weird. He reportedly spent on his 8-hour flight to overseas for the international game this week. He spent 4 of them working out on the plane, doing high knees in the aisle and practicing. I don't know. He's a very strange man. And KJ Hamler tweeted no BS. So he confirmed that report. He is just a character.
Like, if he was just corny and not super weird about it,
yeah,
fine.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not easy to root for him because he just seems like such a loser.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure he's a good person. Yeah. But oh my God, I just don't ever want to have a conversation with him.
No, that's like that conversation you and I had about quarterbacks we would not want to have a beer with. And exactly. I don't know. I just feel like talking to him would be so strange. I don't know. Either way, we're going to jump into some trades. I know we were off. I know we were off last week. Thank you guys for sticking with us. I had to take a little bit of a mental health break last week. So there are some trades in here that we did not talk about yet that I will bring up. I will go in with 2 of the recent ones. The Bears traded pass rusher Robert Quinn to the Eagles for a 4th-round pick. Before I go, I want to go through the list. I want to hear your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, so shout out to my favorite Eagles beat reporter, Jimmy Kempski. He has been on the possibility of the Eagles trading for Robert Quinn since, I believe, week 1 of the NFL season.
Specifically him?
Yeah, specifically Robert Quinn. He puts out an article every couple of weeks. Normally, it's trade deadline targets that make sense for the Eagles. Mm-hmm. He does a lot of articles, obviously, but that's one of the ones that I've paid extra attention to because that's Howie, Howie always makes trades. So I've been very intrigued by the idea of Robert Quinn all season purely because of that he's been on my radar, and he has a very weird career where he has massive spikes of, I believe, 19 and a half sacks back in his 3rd or 4th season, 18 and a half sacks last year in a 2nd team all pro, and so far this season he has 1 sack on, granted, a bad team, not that they were very good last year either, but there's definitely some worrisome there that maybe he's not exactly what he used to be, even that he was last season. But I think the scenario that you're bringing him in as depth really on the defensive line to be an edge rusher. He'll be playing behind Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, and then I guess they released Taron Jackson, so he's sort of behind Hassan Reddick, depending on how they use him as a defensive end versus an off-ball linebacker. But you're really looking for a situational pass rusher, which you're going to be able to, he's on the older side. He's 34. You're going to be able to conserve his energy and his strength for the snaps that count. And I think the best comparison is probably Chris Long in 2017, where he was brought in and he had a heck of a season. And he had a heck of a postseason. He's a large part of the reason they won that Super Bowl. And he was a very situational pass rusher that was just able to consistently get after the quarterback, and that was his only job. Robert Quinn is a crap ton of talent. And the nice part is the Bears are taking on most of the contract for this season. So Eagles aren't going to be paying him much this year. And then next year and the year after that, there's no guaranteed money left on his contract. So basically, they could
Low
cut him
risk,
after
high
the season.
reward.
Exactly. And that's, Howie has long believed, the Eagles have long believed as an organization that the best way to win is at the line of scrimmage on both sides. That's why they have the best offensive line in the league. That's why they invested a first-round pick in Jordan Davis. And that's why even when you already have a good pass rush and a good defensive line, you're still going to spend picks or capital to get a guy like Robert Quinn that can hopefully help you down the stretch. Because if you can bring him in and he's fairly fresh in the fourth quarter in a tight game, the offensive line is going to be worn out from trying to block the mammoth of a human being that is Jordan Davis, along with everyone else on that defensive line. Robert Quinn's going to come in full of energy and hopefully be able to take advantage of it. And then he was getting the most double teams, top 5 double teams in the NFL while playing with the Bears. And that's not going to be possible when he's playing with the Eagles, because you have to worry about Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, Jordan Davis. It's just not going to happen. So, a lot of things to like about the move.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what I said, low risk, high reward is the best way to put it. And it pains me to say, because I'm not an Eagles fan, but I trust Howie that he has made some really, really smart, like big brain plays that other people have been questioning him on. And I don't think anyone's questioning this one, but I think his process has been very solid lately, that whatever he chooses to do, I would at least give him the benefit of the doubt without just, talking down on it without seeing it first.
And I will say the one thing of how he's trading, which I think normally he does pretty well at, he has not done well with the in-season trade deadline trades. A year ago, it was someone, and I forget who it was. Oh, we traded away Zach Ertz. That's what it was. That was fine. Contract thing. Year before that, it was no one. The year before that was Jannard Avery for a 4th-round pick. That was a waste. Year before that was Golden Tate for like a 3rd. That was a horrible trade. I mean, I guess it sort of won you that Bears game, but whatever. And the year before that was Jay Ajayi. That was a great trade at the deadline. Led to the Super Bowl. So, been on slightly more misses than hits, but again, I think this one seemed like a no-brainer. And if Robert Quinn has anything left, then he's going to be able to help this team. So,
I do want to talk about another one of your favorite players, someone you flew across the pond to see. The Jaguars traded away running back James Robinson to the Jets following the news of Breece Hall's ACL tear. They got a conditional 6th for him, which could become a 5th. That followed the game where he got 0 rush attempts against the Giants. So it seems like that was something they were planning on trading him to someone, and I don't know. But he is your favorite. How do you feel about his new landing spot?
I mean, he's definitely going to get carries because, I mean, they lost Breece Hall for the season, and that sucks. Spoiler alert for the injury report if you don't already know.
Yeah.
And it's great for Travis Etienne because he's now the unquestioned RB1 there. They got value recouped for a player that they signed off the street. The Jaguars did. And I think it's fine for James Robinson. I think he walks into a situation where they're really going to want to use him for what he is, which is, he's not a hugely explosive player. He's just, you can give him 20 carries and he's going to average 4 yards a carry. He's probably not going to do nothing too crazy, especially after an Achilles injury that he had last season. But, I think it's good for him.
Yeah.
I'm sad.
And I do think paired with Michael Carter, it is something that that really benefits the Jets. Yep. Having the two of them there together, I think would be really great. And I could see them running a lot of, 21 personnel with both of them there. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how James Robinson is used in this new location. But conditional 6, that could become a 5th. I'll talk about 2 other ones first and then the big one. So we'll start here. Raiders traded defensive tackle Jonathan Hankins and a 7th to the Cowboys for a 6th. Not too much crazy there. Like you said, it is just a lot of depth at that position.
Yeah, it's I will say they needed it. They needed a big nose tackle to help defend the run, and that was the one thing that their defense was really, really lacking. It's obviously a very good defense, but again, older side, but if he has anything left, he's going to be able to help the Cowboys. So,
we have 2 trades with the Panthers. The Panthers traded wide receiver Robbie Anderson to the Cardinals for a future 6th and 7th. That did come after the week where he had a on the field altercation with the interim head coach.
On the side of the field.
But in full view. It wasn't just like some
Yes.
locker room speculation. That's how I meant to say it. It was a very visible feud the two of them were having. He was later traded to the Cardinals. And the big one so far is that the Panthers traded running back Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers for a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and future 5th. I'm sure you have some thoughts.
I mean, first of all, great for the Panthers. It's just that's such a layup because you're rebuilding and you don't want to be paying a running back that much to begin with. But then on top of that, if you're rebuilding, the worst position to have be that invested in is running back. One of the worst positions. Wow, that's really stupid for the 49ers.
Yeah.
They're such morons, dude. I don't get it. You spent a 3rd round pick on freaking Trey Sermon. He's on the Eagles now. You cut him after a year. You spent a 3rd round pick on Tyrion Davis-Price. I get it. He's injured. All of the running backs for the 49ers are always injured. I get it.
Yeah.
But they make do with their running backs no matter what. So I don't get it. You're paying Christian McCaffrey so much money, and now you give up so much capital to get him. And it's just it's such a bad position to invest in. We've had that conversation before.
Yep.
And they doubled down basically on the idea of paying a lot of money and trading a lot of capital for it. I hate it for the Niners. The on-field product, cool, awesome, great. It should be fun. I'm excited for him in that offense. He's probably going to kill it if he can stay healthy. But the off-the-field ramifications of it are terrible. It's an awful move for a franchise. Awful. Because it's one thing, and again, I don't want any team to I think this would be a bad move for basically any team. I think there are 3 teams basically that you could excuse a way out of doing it. Those 3 teams are the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Eagles. Because they're the top 3 teams in the NFL, no questions asked. I think there's a very clear tier break after that. And they all have some kind of hold the running back position where CMC would be a massive upgrade. The Eagles have the best offensive line in the NFL, plus Jalen Hurts. Miles Sanders is good. He's passable, but CMC is still a massive upgrade, while the Chiefs and the Bills have basically no one. So no one of note. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah. I also don't love the combination of 49ers running backs always get hurt and Christian McCaffrey always get hurt. So that is not
for me.
Yep, that is not a great pairing. And for a team that feels like they may be just a few pieces away from making a deep playoff run, you just traded away 1, 2, 3, 4 possible future pieces that could get you there in a hope that this team would be the one to do it, which it doesn't feel insanely possible. I think there is a chance they, make a run for the playoffs. I don't see them going for a Super Bowl the way that the league is set up right now for them. I don't know. It feels kind of like the opposite. I feel like it's high risk, medium reward. I don't know. I think, like you said, it's going to look cool on the field and they're going to run all these crazy plays to have Jimmy G underthrow them. I just don't see how this works.
I don't know what the ceiling change really is for the Niners.
Exactly.
Because they were already getting good production out of their running backs.
Yes.
This is not the Bills or the Chiefs that have the Chiefs maybe a little bit different. And again, that's why the Eagles are kind of in a different territory there because the run game is incredible. The Bills have nothing on the ground. They have nothing. The Chiefs don't have a ton. You put them on them, it's again, don't invest that much on a running back. But you're closer to winning a Super Bowl. And then 2, the change that you're getting at that position is all of a sudden massive. Whereas the Niners, they always make do. CMC is not, I don't believe that CMC is going to get them more wins on the season by himself. So,
yeah. And I think again, so Elijah Mitchell is expected to come back in 2 weeks, right? So the Niners were making do with what they had been doing throughout the injury, the injury stretch that was going on with Elijah Mitchell and Jack Wilson. But you have Elijah Mitchell coming back in hopefully 2 weeks. I just don't see why. It was so unnecessary and great. It looks great, but yeah, on paper, but not even on paper, like for the fans that they get a nice new flashy player is how I mean to say that. But, I think in the long run, this is going to be something people look back on and say that was stupid.
Almost as stupid as Brad's comment. There's a reason Jimmy G isn't nicknamed Himmy G. I hate that, Brad. I hate that.
Since we were talking about running backs, there was one other start I wanted to mention. Running backs for the Chiefs, Isaiah Pacheco did get the start this week over Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Forgot to mention that in there. The players of the week for the NFC were on offense were Giants quarterback Daniel Jones, on defense Cardinals cornerback Marco Wilson, and for special teams Bears kicker Cairo Santos. For the AFC, the offensive player of the week was Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow. The defensive player of the week was Jets cornerback Ahmad Sauce Gardner, and special teams was Titans kicker Randy Bullock. This upcoming week, the Chiefs and the Chargers head to bye. So only 2, and then there's a whole bunch of byes next week, but only 2 going on bye this week. We are going to run through this injury report fairly quickly. Came at the last minute, but Broncos quarterback Russell Wilson did not play this previous Thursday Night Football because of a hamstring injury. Colts quarterback Matt Ryan suffered a separated shoulder. That's a tongue twister. Suffered a separated shoulder this week. That did in part have to do with him being, benched for this upcoming week, but it was very clear that he's going to be benched as of right now for the rest of the season. Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill suffered an ankle injury. Malik Willis came in for like 1 or 2 plays, and Tannehill returned to the game after that. He is expected to play in this upcoming week. Panthers running back Chuba Hubbard suffered a non-serious ankle injury. His game status will be evaluated later in the week. I expect to hear something about that coming up in the next few days. Cowboys running back Ezekiel Elliott is dealing with a bruised knee that doesn't seem to be too serious. Broncos running back Mike Boone has been placed on IR with a high ankle sprain. Niners fullback Kyle Juszczyk will miss this week after having surgery for a broken finger. He is expected to return after the Niners bye. I do believe their bye is next week. Jets running back Breece Hall is out for the rest of the season with a torn ACL, and that one hurts my heart so much.
I agree.
On to the next. It's so sad. For wide receivers, Lions wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown left the game with a suspected concussion. He was ruled out for the rest of the game. It was later revealed he did not have a concussion, but under the new concussion protocol, he did have some of those no-go symptoms. He was not the only player this week that happened to. But again, I would rather you be, take precautions and pull them out of the game rather than have something serious happen. So that one, there are people who that leaves a bad taste in their mouth. For me, I think that is an awesome way to do it. Packers wide receiver Allen Lazard suffered a shoulder injury and left the game. Chargers wide receiver Mike Williams will miss a few weeks due to a high ankle sprain. Luckily, Keenan Allen is back. He did play for the first time since week 1 this week, so they do kind of swap out each other, but still not great for the Chargers. Seahawks wide receiver DK Metcalf suffered a patellar tendon injury on Saturday. Pete Carroll said that this does not require surgery. His return timetable right now is unknown. There are reports that DK was making like a self push to try and get back for this upcoming week. Niners wide receiver Deebo Samuel did not practice today with a hamstring injury. Jets wide receiver Corey Davis left the game with a knee injury, and Texans wide receiver Nico Collins left the game with a groin injury. For tight ends, Browns tight end David Njoku is expected to miss several weeks with a high ankle sprain. And one of the more gruesome injuries of the week, Giants rookie tight end Daniel Bellinger is having surgery for a fractured eye socket he got in the game against the Jags after being violently poked in the eye. His timetable to return is uncertain. He is listed as out indefinitely right now. That one was a scary one. His eye was like swollen shut within 2 seconds of it happening. He had blood all over his jersey. An eye poke fractured his eye socket. It was very scary. There is a slight hope he comes back towards the end of the season, but the eye is not something to mess around with. So I think they're going to take it pretty slow. His dad put out some tweets. He's in good spirits and had a surgery. For offensive line injuries, Bears center Lucas Patrick left Monday Night Football with a toe injury. Packers, I have that in the wrong spot. Giants offensive tackle Evan Neal will miss about 3 weeks with an MCL injury. The way they're making it sound is like it's a sprain or strain. Jets guard Elijah Vera-Tucker will miss the rest of the season with a tricep injury. For defense and special teams, Falcons cornerback AJ Terrell is listed as week to week with a hamstring injury he did sustain in this week's game. Chargers cornerback J.C. Jackson will miss the rest of the season with a ruptured patellar tendon, and that is a huge blow for the Chargers. They did not make it out of this week without some, pretty impactful injuries. The Bengals defensive end Trey Hendrickson left the game with a neck injury. It was later revealed to be a bad stinger. He says he's had them in the past. He hopes to be back for this week, but there was no clear identification if he will or not. Texans defensive lineman Malik Collins left the game with a chest injury. Dolphins safety Brandon Jones was placed on IR with a knee injury this week. Bucs defensive back Antoine Winfield Jr. suffered a concussion on Sunday, and because they play on Thursday Night Football on a short week, he is expected to miss this upcoming game. I didn't see an official declaration of out yet, though. Cowboys defensive back Jordan Lewis is out the rest of the season with a Liz Frank injury that he did have surgery on, and Packers outside linebacker Rashawn Gary left the game with a concussion. For good news, there was a bunch of good news for players coming off of IR. Things like TJ Watt was at practice, didn't officially come off of IR. But 3 I really wanted to point out. Bears wide receiver Byron Pringle is activated off the IR. The Commanders defensive end Chase Young is expected to come off IR this week after tearing his ACL last season. So that opens up his 21-day window of return. It wasn't official yet, but that is expected to happen this week, which is huge for them, especially with Taylor Heineke being the one to start. They can use any sort of help they can get on either side of the ball. And the big one, Giants center Nick Gates is expected to be activated from IR after his gruesome leg injury last year. Nick Gates is expected to be activated from IR after his gruesome leg injury last season, which required him to have 7 surgeries. That was the one where his leg was completely going in the wrong direction. They didn't know if he'd ever be back. Do you not remember that, or you just?
I don't want to think about it.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you didn't remember or if it was just gross. His was a very, very scary injury, that guy might lose his leg type injury. He is activated off of IR. I don't really have any reports on if he's expected to fully play or just start participating in practice, but either way, that is some of the best news I've heard around the league this week. And Duncan, I'm going to turn it over to you. Why don't you tell us what your segment is?
All right. So next up is the 15-second frenzy, where I take 15 seconds per game to go over the major events as I see them for the last week of football. So I'll have 15 seconds per matchup, and Ashley will remind me or tell me when my 15 seconds are up and I have to move on to the next matchup.
Yep, and hopefully we will have a theme song soon.
All right, well, now you're putting out there. Okay.
All right, I'll count you down. Ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go.
Saints versus Cardinals. Andy Dalton threw back-to-back pick sixes, but is still going to start again this week because of Winston's back being broken in many places. DeAndre Hopkins is back and better than ever, or at least as good as he ever was, although it was really the run game that carried Kyler to a win this week. Falcons versus the Bengals. 13 attempts in a game for the Falcons, passing attempts, that is. While getting blown out is horrible. Arthur Smith is a horrible head coach, and I don't like him. He deserves to be fired yesterday. Meanwhile, at least the Bengals are letting Joe cook. They finally figured out a recipe to win.
Next.
Lions versus the Cowboys. Dak was extremely underwhelming in his return, in my opinion. They put up 24 points against the league's worst defense, which is fine, but he didn't look comfortable. Very similar to week 1 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Losing Amon-Ra St. Brown and not having Swift is a tough blow for a team that looked much more competitive. Colts versus Titans. Titans ripped off 4 straight wins and are once again in the driving seat for the division, with everyone else kind of falling apart. And the Colts have looked horrible, and that has led to the benching of Matt Ryan, and they are looking for unproven quarterback Sam Ehlinger for answers. It's a bad plan.
Next.
Packers versus the Commanders. Good God, Green Bay is freaking horrible. Aaron Rodgers looks miserable and bad and horrible. Washington won a game, and it really wasn't because of Heineke playing, but I don't know why they would play once again, considering that they would have to give up more draft compensation if he reaches a certain snap count. Buccaneers versus the Panthers. Just as we all expected, the Panthers traded away their best player, and then they blew out Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. Tom Brady looks miserable. They look hopeless, and they just look like an absolute mess, and we all knew it was going to happen from the first one of the first plays. It was Mike Evans dropping a touchdown. I had to get that in.
Okay.
Giants versus Jaguars. Daniel Jones had 107 yards on the ground en route to a 6-1 record where they seemingly just can't lose. However, after losing key pieces, it makes me wonder how long the Giants can keep that up. The Jags have not looked the same since playing in the rain, and Trevor Lawrence fumbled 5 times in one game. Also, shout out to ETN for a breakout game. Browns versus the Ravens. The Ravens got back in the win column, even if their fourth quarter issues remain present, with Lamar really not pulling his weight as the season grows older, becomes more of a concern. The return of the Gus Bus, and the Browns are just absolutely wasting a hell of a season by Nick Chubb. It's kind of sad to see. Jets versus the Broncos. Rest in peace, Breece Hall. It's time to put up or shut up, Zach Wilson. Let's see what you've got, and let's see if you're ready to lead a team. In this game, it really wasn't much, but at least he didn't lose it for them, I guess, against Brett Ripien. And honestly, I can't really say that the Broncos offense looked that much worse without Russ this week. The Texans versus the Raiders. Josh Jacobs is a monster, and he might be carving out a chance to be in the competition for Offensive Player of the Year. After investing in weapons for Derek Carr, it's clear that their best way to win is to run the ball. Of course, as well expected. But at least they're back in. Oh, dang it. Seahawks versus the Chargers. The Chargers just are not very good. Staley might be coaching his way out of a job when you have this talented of a roster, even though everyone is seemingly getting injured. At least Austin Eckler is putting up an absolute clinic after a slow start to the season. Oh, my God. I just said chart. No, I need to finish this one. The Seahawks. There is a conversation to be had about whether or not the Seahawks are the best team in the NFC after the Eagles. I wanted to put that out there. Chiefs versus Niners. The Niners embarrassed themselves after trading a crap ton of picks for CMC. This offense has way too much talent to be this mess, especially against the bottom half of the league defense in the Chiefs. At least the Chiefs continue to show out, putting up a 40-burger against one of the better defenses in the league. Nothing new there. Steelers versus the Dolphins. Pickett is such a middling floor, low-ceiling quarterback, and he doesn't understand how to win at an NFL level. He can't do it with his athleticism and his arm talent. And I'm not sure if he's ever really going to understand that because he really never got that in college. It was a slow game for the Dolphins, but it was nice to see two in a primetime game where he didn't get a concussion. Finally, the Bears versus the Patriots. Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. Bill Belichick, you don't help anything with the way that you talk, honestly. And I guess on the other side of the ball, at least Justin Fields has a solid game, and it looked like they were making adjustments on the offense with how they were using him by rolling him out and using his athleticism as a plus on the offense. That was a mixed bag. That's what happened.
Yeah, that was. I know a lot of things we brought up I'd love to talk about, but
the slow chart.
Yes, I would love to talk about that. Let's spend the rest of the podcast.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things in there that you mentioned and that usually we would talk about, but in the upcoming 2 weeks, we do have 2 segments that will address a lot of those things. So I'm going to hold off on making too many comments, but yeah, oh, how the mighty have fallen between Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. And I guess you could say Russell Wilson in that category, but
he was mighty.
Yeah. So incredible.
Yeah, really sad, honestly. And I think more than anything, Tom still looks like he has it. There's just Rodgers and Wilson, they just look worse. Mm-hmm. Wilson is doing it by himself. He just looks horrible by himself, and the offense looks horrible. Rodgers, I think, definitely looks worse, but he doesn't have anything helping him. Tom Brady, I don't even understand it. I've watched him play, and I'm like, he still has the ability to throw the football. There's just something wrong with that offense. I can't put my finger on it. He still grades out fairly well in quarterback independent grading in general. It's not clicking. And I truly don't get it. I mean, it was that first play of the game, or one of the first plays of the game. Mm-hmm. He had a wide open Mike Evans. He put it right in the basket, and Mike Evans dropped it. That's not something Mike Evans normally does. But then again, they made it look so easy right there, and then they did nothing the rest of the game. So I don't know. It's a mystery to me.
Yeah. I do want to talk about the Panthers are the ones who defeated them, and there is a certain situation this upcoming week that could put the Panthers at first in the division. Crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so sad. They should be tanking.
Yeah, so they could end up first in the position, I think, if they win and Tampa loses this week.
Hey, shout out PJ Walker, baby.
I know.
XFL legend, Temple Tough. Let's go, PJ.
I knew you were going to be so excited, and you were definitely excited because I texted you about DJ Moore, because DJ Moore has been the topic of a lot of conversation lately with the Panthers. selling off a lot of their players. The question was, would DJ Moore be one of those pieces? There were reports that came out that said the Panthers do not plan on trading him, that they consider him a fundamental piece to this offense. And you had said that whatever happens, you hope DJ Moore is happy. And he is a man who seemed very happy. He had to have been happy this week.
Oh, yeah, because he finally got the ball freaking thrown to him, and it was semi-accurate. I mean, PJ Walker had a heck of a throw in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. That was a great throw. That was an XFL MVP level throw. That was a hashtag Temple Tough level throw. And, Temple football is very bad. They're very bad this season. That's not a good example. But the XFL MVP, not many people can say that.
Yeah.
It's only like probably 2 or 3 people. But regardless, I would be very happy if I was DJ Moore. And who knows what is to come with Baker and Sam Darnold possibly being on the road to returning. I don't know. Yes. I'm riding with PJ Walker personally.
I did want to mention that. So I kind of have a little bit of beef with interim head coach Steve Wilks, because he does have Baker Mayfield and what's his face coming back from
IR.
Darnold, thank you. Darnold and Baker coming off of IR soon, or coming back from injury soon. And I feel like the smart play would have just been to say, we'll see how it goes. And instead, Steve Wilks almost went all in PJ Walker in post-game press conferences. And I do love that. From a game perspective, when you have 3 quarterbacks, when realistically any one of them could start, if you just kept your mouth shut.
I normally I feel like I agree with you. I disagree with you there, because you're just coming off of a win.
Yeah, but again,
you're coming off
of a think that anyway. So why are you just going to give him more?
Because you have to hype up your dude. You're an interim head coach, first of all. The season's going nowhere. You just traded 2 key people. Everyone knows you're not trying to win. Everyone gets it. Your dude just went out there and beat Tom Brady. He had a heck of a game. Just hype him up. Just hype him up. That no one is saying that you can't bench him after he sucks, which will happen eventually. But I personally think the right way to handle this when you're an interim head coach is just hype up your dudes. Just be
I hadn't thought about it. I hadn't thought about that way until you mentioned it, because when I only looked at it from I guess I didn't use as much context, because I just don't like when coaches fully commit to that very shortly after a win, and you have multiple quarterbacks who could start. And that's not something that happens very often. But do you get what I'm saying? But now that you said that, I feel a little bit better about it.
I do, yeah. I just think it's situational.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so we are going to jump into a segment where it's the same segment we did last year, where we look at some quarterbacks around the league and question whether or not they are or have what it takes to be a franchise quarterback. We have a decent amount of quarterbacks we're going to talk about today. We did separate them into 2 categories. One of them is, the first category we're going to go over is people who had question marks around their names when the season started, like the off season leading into NFL season. And the second category will be quarterbacks who have raised questions over the season, if they should be extended or if they should, completely abandon hope. So we're going to separate it into 2 of those. I know Duncan's going to pull up some stats as we go through the list. And we'll just start with one right off the bat, and that is Jalen Hurts, a man who had many, many eyes looking towards him and a lot of question marks about him going into this season. How do we feel? I know we're both on the same page, but give me a super short rundown.
Yeah, so I think the way that I'm looking at this for the most part is I'm looking at it from the point of view as an NFL franchise. And it's really, do I want to pay this dude like a franchise quarterback? Because that's the equivalent of committing to him as a franchise quarterback. And a lot of these guys, you've either already made that decision or you have to make that decision. Jalen Hurts is one of the most important decisions of any of these guys on this list, because he's imminently ready for a contract extension after this season. It'll only be, next year's only his 4th year, so they've still got some time. But from what he's shown this year, you just have to pay him, because he's too good to let walk. And he's performed well. He's easy to root for. The locker room loves him, and he's going to put in the work. Your real question is just, where is the ceiling with him? Because I think you kind of know what the floor is. And the ceiling question is, okay, when is he going to reach it? Is his ceiling Josh Allen? or is his ceiling what we're seeing right now, which is very, very good? There's question marks about his ceiling right now. And I'm saying this in the middle of a 6-0 season, but like he's graded out very well. Like on PFF, he is the fifth best offensive rating of quarterbacks, behind Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Geno Smith, and Andy Dalton. Very shocked to see Andy Dalton right there on that list. I had obviously already seen it, but he's ranked above guys like Tom Brady, Joe Burrow, Tua, Aaron Rodgers, whatever. So yes, the hope is that maybe you can get some type of discount. I guess probably not though. But I think Howie's smart, and I think he's going to do it early and get some type of discount, would be my guess. Because the longer you wait, the more times the quarterback market resets. And you asked for a short answer. That was a long answer. But I think that will... Can I just go right into kind of the next two guys?
Yeah, please do.
So the next two guys I think are actually very similar in both the way of thinking and also what they're going to be getting paid. The first one I'm going to talk about is Kyler, who his contract is, I think, is going to be the template for both Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson, the other guy here. Lamar Jackson has not helped himself, in my opinion, this season. I have already gone on a rant on this podcast, and I think you generally agreed with me that he was not doing himself any favors by representing himself. Correct. I think he was just handling it very poorly, and I think he's losing out on money himself by doing that, especially with his style of play and the ability to get injured. But Kyler Murray he's a franchise quarterback because they paid him to be. He was drafted to be one, and he's shown all of the abilities to do it. What he doesn't have that Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson have is the leadership, some of the intangibles. He just has amazing athletic ability. He has a better arm than I think either Jalen or Lamar do. Better accuracy. He's probably just a better passer. But he just hasn't produced at the NFL level. Like Lamar Jackson has an MVP season, hasn't done great in the playoffs. Neither is Kyler. Jalen Hurts obviously is only 0-1 in the playoffs. But I think that contract is going to be the template of the way that people are going to look at Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson and their money. And I think when you're looking at that, the hope is that, in the next couple of years, that contract looks cheap for either Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson. So
now, does Jalen Hurts have an option to be franchise tagged?
Yeah, after his fourth season, you can franchise him 2 or 3 times, I think. He doesn't have a 5th-year option like Lamar does.
Gotcha. Okay, so that was my question with 5th-year options.
Because he was a 2nd-round pick, and 5th-year options only for first-rounders.
I always forget that. So I completely agree with you on Jalen Hurts. My answer will be short and sweet. Yes, he is a franchise quarterback. I think the other two, you do start to get into a little bit murkier waters. And like you said, you and I have talked about Lamar Jackson's situation and how he has, I think, in season lost himself some potential money. I think he's shown a little bit more flaws than the organization would be hoping for to pay a lot of money to a quarterback. And that's not saying that they won't pay him or they won't keep him around. But I do think even just trying to be an agent for himself and then playing and showing some very true, very real flaws so far is a little bit of an issue for him. And as for Kyler Murray, I think mine is he just needs to focus on football, I guess.
I think they need to fire Cliff, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, I do. That's a question for next week. But yeah, so I'll agree with you there on pretty much all 3 counts. Matt Ryan is the next one we had on the list. I do think we already have our answer, Matt Ryan, considering they are benching him for Sam Ehlinger. Even though he is injured, they were very clear that Sam Ehlinger is going to be the quarterback for the rest of the year, and not just this week, and we'll see how it goes. It is, we are riding with Sam Ehlinger for the rest of the year. So I think we fully have our answer on Matt Ryan. My question to you more so would be, where does he go from here, right? Like, you think he retires? Do you think he stays for one more year?
I think he goes into retirement.
Gotcha.
I honestly think that he was only going to do 1 or 2 more years in Atlanta anyway. And after he kind of got screwed over by them, he was like, yeah, I don't really want to, like, I'm just going to go somewhere else. Like, I love Matt Ryan. I love his personality. he's handling this all like a true professional.
Yeah.
And I truly think that he's smart enough to realize that he's done. Maybe he goes somewhere as like a veteran, like a team that I can't even think of an example, but like one that drafts a quarterback really high, almost like a Kurt Warner type thing, I guess. But like, I don't know. I think that's like, I think that he's made enough money. He's done enough in his career that he's just going to retire. I don't think he feels the need to be a backup for a couple years because he's been to the pinnacle, you know?
Yeah, I agree with that. I just think that situation as a whole is a disaster. And I think the Colts have to spend a very long time looking in the mirror and figuring out how to fix what's going on.
Yep.
So we have some guys here who we're getting even further into murky water. First off, I want to start with Goff and Wentz. Those are our next two.
2016.
And I think we have some idea of how their respective organizations are handling their situations, but anything you want to tell us about those two?
I think the answer to both of them is no, obviously. Goff, I think, will continue to just be... I think he's going to be a long-time bridge quarterback. I think he's going to be very, very Ryan Fitzpatrick-y, Chase Daniel-y, I guess. Maybe Ryan Fitzpatrick. Maybe Josh McCown is a better example than like Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think until the Lions decide that they're going to draft their quarterback of the future, which is I think should be this year, I think they'll probably just ride with Goff because whatever. Wentz, on the other hand, is a completely different scenario because I don't know if he's ever going to be able to accept the fact that he's not a starting quarterback. He didn't think that he deserved to be benched in Philly in 2020, which were you watching the same tape that I was?
Yeah.
And then in Indianapolis, he refused to take like any of the blame on really what happened. And Washington, like I said in the 15-second frenzy, I don't know why they would play him for the rest of the season. I wouldn't be playing Taylor Heinicke either. I would be playing Sam Howell. But I think that doesn't happen until they give up on the season. And Wentz is going to be out at least a month. So I don't know. I maybe he goes somewhere and it's like that kind of pseudo like Mitch Trubisky, like competing for the starting job after they draft a quarterback in the first round. But I don't know. I don't think his psyche can take that because it's proven that he can't. So I don't know. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback, but I don't know what's next for him. Yeah,
that's what I agree with you with. And I think him being a bridge quarterback would be a good job for him. And, I think that is kind of how the league views him already.
I don't know
if
it would be a good job for him. I actually disagree with that. I think he thinks too much of himself. And I think on the field, I think Goff is that not going to do too much type of thing. And he's just going to kind of do like just enough. Whereas Wentz, he's both like Ryan Fitzpatrick, and then he takes way too many chances, but he's not nearly as fun about it.
Yeah. And I think the way I was thinking of it more is like, I think franchises would view him in that role as a good role for him. I think him deep down in his,
but he hasn't proven to be able to work with the idea of having a young quarterback behind him. Jalen Hurts. Sam Howell even maybe. I don't know. It's all psyche for me. It's all his mental attitude. I agree that from a talent perspective, sure, but at a certain point that only matters so much. True.
I love Taylor Heinicke. I think they should just ride with Taylor Heinicke. He is in my list of certified cool guys. I really like him. So the next, I also was looking at the Jared Goff's age. He is only 28. So two more in this list. We'll do these ones one by one. This is another one who I think already has their answer, and that is Baker Mayfield, who is currently playing with the Carolina Panthers and got outplayed by PJ Walker.
Yeah, he'll be signed as a backup somewhere next year.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's that easy.
I do feel somewhat bad for that guy.
I do too. I said this like I got in a very long argument with Jax at Dino Game Theory about it when he pouted about them going after Deshaun Watson, and he called him a lot of things, and I was like, I disagree. Like I think Baker was very justified in being upset about it after every. I get it. His play wasn't perfect, and it's not like he's getting unseated by just anyone. It's a dude that has 14 counts of whatever, or however many counts of whatever against him, and just a bunch of crap after everything he did for the Browns organization. Like,
correct.
And again, doesn't excuse his play, but
yeah, and I think it's I think for everything he did for that organization, and they made him out to be the scapegoat for every issue they had going on in the Browns organization, when the issues run much, much deeper. They made him out to be a scapegoat, and he seems to have just gotten a couple of really tough breaks. But yeah, I agree with you. I think he ends up being a backup. I don't see him as he may be a starter somewhere for one more year, but I do not see him as a franchise quarterback. The next one, who we've talked about plenty, and I think we still hold the same feelings towards, is Davis Mills. You have any stats on him? Because I feel he's one we could benefit some stats from.
Yeah, I mean, he's 14th in the league in terms of PFF grade. And I wanted to look at his ADOT was the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's below the league average in ADOT.
Can you let them know?
What was that?
Can you let them know what ADOT is?
Oh, yeah, sorry. ADOT is basically like your average depth of target. So it's it's found by dividing air yards by targets. It's basically, on average, how many yards are you actually throwing the ball for a given throw, not how many yards you gain.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I throw the ball 1 yard in front of me, but my dude gains 15 yards, my ADOT on that throw is 1 yard. If it's a screen pass, your ADOT is -1 or whatever. So he's averaging 6.9 average depth of target, which is just not very good. It shows, a very uninspiring offense, and that he's not doing anything particularly special. And that's exactly how I feel about him. I think he had a chance, like we talked about it. I think he had a chance to kind of cement his place, but Texans have been very bad, and they've been very boring, and there's very little to be excited about. So I think that they most likely use their high draft pick on a quarterback, and Davis Mills is relegated to the next Colt McCoy.
Yeah, I agree. He's been, doing really well. I was looking up some of the advanced PFF stats, really well with play action plays, but not so great with no play action. I think he's done enough to show that he can still hang around in the league, but not as a franchise quarterback.
Yes. He'll be in the league for sure.
Yeah. And he's another one that, I think it's a little bit harder to evaluate him because of the situation the Texans are in and the roster they have. I think we have a good idea of who he is. I just don't know if we're 100% have seen the best that Davis Mills has to offer. But I agree with you. I don't think he is officially a franchise quarterback. And we are going to now slide into our second part of this segment, which is quarterbacks who have raised questions over the season. And this is going to go both ways, whether they have raised questions of should they still be here, or questions of is this someone we should extend and keep around. And I know we are getting a little bit close on time. We may run a little bit over today, but these are all people we did want to talk about. So why don't we start with our weird man from our news segment, Russell Wilson?
I mean, I think this one can be pretty quick. It's just a simple matter of they've already committed to him.
Yeah.
They've committed a lot of money to him, and it is what it is. Like they made their bed, now they're going to lie in it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And what these two, I think, were the quicker ones that we have. Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, no. I think he's fine. He's talented. I think he's always had talent. But I think he's just going to continue to be a perpetual backup. And I blame Arthur Smith. I think he sucks.
Yes.
I don't like him.
Yep. Do you think Desmond Ridder is someone who will, I mean, we can't really fully evaluate him because he hasn't been in the NFL, but do you think at some point this year that Desmond Ridder takes over, or that, that's their hope, is that they won't have to draft another one?
I honestly don't know, because, and part of that is I don't know what to think about Arthur Smith. Like I don't know. I really don't know. That entire Atlanta situation is made complicated by even if Desmond Ridder gets in there, I don't know if we see anything from him purely because of Arthur Smith being bad at his job. So I don't know. I think that's a very messed up situation. You've spent so much draft capital on Kyle Pitts and Drake London, and you throw the ball 13 times in a game that you're getting blown out. I can't forgive that. Like, that's horrible. I don't get it. I don't get it. So even if Desmond Ridder is out there, like, I don't know if it matters. I don't know if they're gonna. I don't know if they're gonna be in a position to draft a quarterback early. I don't know if they will. I don't know if Arthur Smith will be the head coach next year. Like, there's so many question marks that make it a much more difficult situation to decipher compared to some of these other
Yeah.
ones. But
I
I'd say if
completely
we
agree with
aren't
you.
seeing Desmond Ritter, then I would not expect him to be the future of their plans until we see it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like that point of view. And someone who hasn't had as much starting time as we expected them to have this year because of that there's been a bug flying around here all day. He's distracting me. Is the man with the broken spine, and that would be Jameis Winston, who has really not done too much to prove himself, even though he says he has been able to play with the broken back. I think part of it is the back, part of it is that they're just having better, I'm not going to put success in air quotes, but better success with Andy Dalton and sometimes Taysom Hill, I guess. So for me, that one's a hard no. And he's another one that, especially with a injury like his, I don't know how much longer we see him in the league, even though he is only 28.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
okay.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a backup quarterback.
Yeah, and I honestly, like I said, I really don't see that lasting for too long either. If this injury of his is, as bad as it sounds. Next up was Jacoby Brissett. We know that he is not anticipated to be the franchise quarterback of the Browns because the Browns traded for Deshaun Watson. But I wanted to bring him up because I do feel like he's been playing better than a lot of people expected him to. So my question for you more so is, can he be somebody else's starting quarterback for somebody like another team in the league, or is he someone that you think will be a perpetual backup?
He's definitely a perpetual backup.
Okay.
I just don't think his upside is really, maybe in the right situation.
Mhm.
Maybe he's like a short-term answer at quarterback, like a
bridge quarterback.
Like the next, I was about to say the next quarterback for the Colts, but they already did that. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I do think when we talked about Carson Wentz not having the psyche for being a bridge quarterback, I feel like Jacoby Brissett would be an option people look towards to being a bridge
absolutely, and that's why he's going to
Mhm.
be a backup quarterback in the league for a long
Mhm.
time. He's good enough to be a backup, but you never want him as your starting quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we have one more player who is a little bit older compared to the rest we're going to talk about, but that would be Geno Smith, who seems to have inherited all of Russell Wilson's past talent when he took over in
this is like
Seattle.
A freaking
I said it's Freaky Friday.
Oh.
Day one that this happened was week 1 was when Geno Smith played out of his mind and Russell Wilson played terribly, or for week 2 when they played each other.
They played each other.
Oh, sorry, there was week 1. Okay, so I said that it felt like Freaky Friday, where they swapped bodies, but they played Freaky Friday with their talent instead.
See, I personally I like the Space Jam comparison.
I just love the movie Freaky Friday. So.
Geno got Russell Wilson to touch a football, and it absorbed all of his talents, and Geno took them.
I wouldn't doubt it, because that's the way it looks. He has been playing out of his mind.
See, but Geno's not weird. That's why I can't go with the Freaky Friday thing. Is Geno's not acting like a weirdo?
But it's not like the people are freaky. It's that the situation.
Well,
is
their
freaky.
Entire personalities swap.
Friday?
Yes, their personalities get swapped.
I said with talent.
Well, then you're just describing a different movie.
I said it's Freaky Friday, but with talent. There's no movie where people's talented is just Freaky Friday.
Space Jam! Literally Space Jam! The Monstars steal the talent of NBA players.
Fine. That's
also,
I just like my Freaky Friday one.
Also goes over because freaking what's her name is playing the guitar like Lindsay Lohan's character.
I know.
The talent, you just switch bodies.
Yeah,
you can't say Freaky Friday, but with talent. That's just a different movie.
Tell us how you really feel, but this time do it about Geno Smith.
My dog's coming up to check on me because I'm
he's making sure you're not having a heart attack in your attic. What do you think about Geno Smith? Are you thrown off, or you just don't know?
I think anyone that thinks they have any clue what's going on with Geno Smith is lying to everyone and themselves. He's playing out of his mind. He's playing very well. He grades out well in everything. He's pushing the ball down the field. He is making throws that can only equate in terms of this type of weirdness as to Nick Foles in the Super Bowl run. Like, Nick Foles made some of the greatest throws I have ever seen in the Super Bowl. And now he's barely a backup quarterback in the league. Like, that is unheard of to see that happen. That is literally what Geno Smith is doing. I don't get it. I don't know what happened. It's like a Freaky Friday, but with talent, which is a dumb analogy. Yeah, I don't know. If there's ever a team and a coach that's just going to roll with Geno Smith, because why the heck not? It's probably the Seahawks.
Yeah.
They're not going to be. I don't think they're going to be in a position to draft their franchise, like a young franchise quarterback. I think what's maybe more likely, honestly, is maybe like a second or third round guy that has a year to learn under Geno Smith before Geno. Like, this reminds me, Case Keenum. That's who this reminds me of. That's what it is. It's Case Keenum. So he'll probably get an extension, and then he'll just slowly fade into the background again. That's the exact. It's Case Keenum. Case Keenum took them to an NFC championship, and that they had the chance to play in a Super Bowl in their own stadium, and then they lost to the Eagles. So yeah, I'm going to go with Case Keenum. Okay. That you didn't ask who I was comparing him to, but that is the scenario that is playing out.
I understand what you mean. Yeah. Speaking of Case Keenum, the Bills put out a really funny video this week, and it was
was he never mind. I thought he was trying to get autographs. That was also
I love that one. But the Case Keenum one, they put all three quarterbacks in a video together, and it's just like snipped up to make it look so weird, because that's the Bills social media team. They are hilarious and have a very weird sense of humor.
They're very good at what they do.
They are. But I did want to point out some stats with Geno Smith. He has, a little bit of a hard time when under pressure. He has a grade of 56.5, but he still has a decent grade when he's blitzed. He is being like an elite passer in deep throws, which are over 20 yards at 92.6 grade, which is amazing. And I do think part of it helps with the two main wide receivers they do have on the field, and most of that grade does come from deep left. There was one more I want to look, and the only real passing concept that has a little bit of a struggle with is screenplays. And the attempts at that have been few and far in between. Only 13 attempts on screenplays. So that's really the only one I can point that sticks out to me that he's having an issue with. I completely agree with you. I think as what he's showing right now, he does have a good enough case to say that people should keep him around. And like you said, I think Pete Carroll is the type of guy who would totally do it. Yeah.
And it's not like he's doing it for a game here or there. Like, it is that Case Keenum thing of like, he's doing it for a whole season and really making you question anything you ever thought you knew about him. And that's the scary thing. That's how you get paid. So, yeah.
Yep. So we have four guys here who all were drafted recently. And we're going to start with Trevor Lawrence. I think this one's a pretty interesting case.
So I was actually going to say, for the sake of time, I'm just going to group them together and say that they're all underperforming.
Correct.
And the most it's so tough with these like second-year quarterbacks, because you invested so highly in them that they're going to continue to be your starter. But like the reality is they don't have to. The teams don't have to make that decision yet. So not to say it's not worth talking about. But
I know what you mean. If there's one you think that would lose their job, like right this second, which one of the four do you think it would be?
That's really tough. See, my go-to would be Zach Wilson, but they're winning games. Mac Jones has the Bailey Zappi thing, but he also performed the best out of all of them last year. Justin Fields might legitimately be my favorite from a talent perspective, but the team isn't good. And then Trevor Lawrence was the number one overall pick and a generational prospect, but their team isn't good. It might be Trevor Lawrence just due to the fact that it's the Jaguars, and they had, like, if they fire their GM, that's a recipe for a new quarterback getting drafted, along with the fact that Doug Peterson is now a new head coach there. So I don't really think any of them.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting. And then the last one on
very good non-answer in my opinion.
Yeah. I understand what you mean though. The last one to talk about is Daniel Jones. I definitely have more to say than you do, but why don't you just tell me a little bit about your feelings?
Yeah, so I mean, before the season, they denied his fifth-year option. Yeah. And their GM literally came out and said, yeah, we suck, but oh well,
Mhm.
we'll deal with it next year. This is the team we got. And everyone was like, okay. And then Daniel Jones is now putting together probably the best season of his career, I would assume. Yeah. And they're 6-1, and they're probably already out of the running for a top quarterback prospect in the draft. And that brings to focus the idea of what the heck do you do with Daniel Jones? How much do you trust that this is him getting better? Or is it the fact that you're 6-1 and you're undefeated in like 1-score games?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the type of thing it doesn't carry over from year to year. So
yeah. I think Daniel Jones has shown tremendous improvement, even in just his not even in just his play calling, playmaking abilities. It's more so just in this like general football knowledge, this confidence he has on the field, the way he seems to be able to rally everyone around him, which he wasn't able to do in the past. He seems much more of a leader on this team. He is someone who, is under pressure a lot and doesn't have the best offensive PFF grade under pressure, but he's still doing well. He has an 88.7 PFF grade in, I think the bug just flew my lap. He has an 88.7 PFF grade for play action, and he has a high score for deep passes thrown. He's just someone who is the epitome of grit and perseverance and like tenacity this year. And I think he is making a really strong case for the Giants to consider him. I don't think the Giants expected to be in this position. And I think for the first time, even though I was one who preached the past 2 years that it was really hard to evaluate Daniel Jones with no talent. And now there is more talent and he is overperforming expectations. So I think he's someone who may very well get a contract towards the end of this year. I do think part that plays into that is what the Giants' plans are with Saquon Barkley, because they may have to tie up a lot of money in him. But he is incredible this year, and I genuinely don't think there's much bad I can say about him this year. He's made improvements in all of the ways that you and I had spoken about that I had wanted to see from him in order to even consider extending him a contract. So yeah, I think he's someone who very well could still have space to grow and win in this organization. But I do think this is going to have to be a season-long like sustainability thing in order for that conversation to be fully had with the organization.
Yeah, I mean, I think this went about as poorly as you could possibly want it to go if you're the Giants front office, to be honest. Because Saquon's having a career year, which means to keep him, you're going to have to pay a running back a lot of money, which is not a good gamble. He's been healthy in 2 of his 5 seasons.
Yeah.
It's not good. Daniel Jones is playing to the point where to let him walk in free agency might look really bad, but also might be the best strategic move. In which case, like maybe you sign both of them and then you're wrapping up money in a running back and a quarterback that I'm personally not convinced is a franchise quarterback. Or you let them both walk and you're starting from scratch and you don't even have a high draft pick to do it.
That's what I was just going to say. So you're starting from scratch, hoping to grab a quarterback, but you are not in the position to. So I agree with you. It's kind of a catch-22 for the Giants. I'm not going to complain too much because we're actually winning. And that is the first time I felt that way. Happy about this team in a very long time. But I think they really are caught in between a rock and a hard place. But as a person, I do love Daniel Jones. And I really hope the best for him. This week was the first time I've ever really seen him show like true emotion on the field. He got really mad when Marcus Johnson had like a clear drop right in front of the end zone. He got like very angry that he didn't catch it. That's the first time I've seen it, but I see it as a good thing. And I think this team has really rallied around Daniel Jones. So at this moment, if the season ended today and they had to make a decision, I would be confident, or not even confident, but happy to have him for a couple more years.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to the money.
Yeah, I agree. Yep, I agree.
If I'm a Giant, like as an Eagles fan, I would love for you guys to sign him and do a big money deal. I would be thrilled.
I know you would,
because I just think that's a horrible move. If I'm a Giants fan, honestly, I think I'm hoping for him to either become an MVP or to collapse, and I don't want anything in between.
Yeah, I completely understand
So,
that. And that's
yeah.
kind of how a lot of us feel. But anyway, we did run over about 10 minutes over. So why don't you tell us where we can find you? And I'll jump on it too.
You can find me on Twitter at mpduncan75. You can find me here Wednesday nights, typically at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can find me at Citizens Bank Park for Game 4 of the
Are you
World
going?
Series. I am.
Oh my
I am.
God. That's so
I'm
exciting.
very, very excited.
That's very
Yeah,
exciting.
so here's hoping that they start 3-0 and I'm at the game where they clinch the
Mhm.
World Series. I'm not
That would be
expecting
cool.
that, but it would be great. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. You can don't forget Under the Wire. You didn't say it this time, and I do love
Dang
Under the Wire.
it! You can find me at the Under the Wire pregame show on Sunday mornings, starting at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard until 1. We help you with start sits for your fantasy football teams. You can find that on the FF Chat Discord. If you need to know how to join that Discord, you can message me, and I'll also try and tweet it out on Sunday morning.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's also where you can find me.
Awesome. I love Under the Wire. It is a really fun time. You hear a couple different perspectives, and Duncan will always tell you that even if you just listen to the show and take his advice, he's happy to have you blame him if
I
you
will
lose
be
at
your
fantasy that week.
scapegoat.
So you can find me on Twitter at Ashley_Marie with 2 A's at the beginning of Ashley. You can find me here live on Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you can listen to the podcast anywhere you stream your podcasts, including Apple, like iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor FM. You can listen pretty much anywhere. YouTube, you can watch the video playback. If you do watch any of these things, please go ahead and give us a great review. It does greatly help us out. You can find both of us and all of the Undroppables team on our exclusive premium Discord channels, and you can gain access to those by becoming a patron at patreon.com/theundroppables. And you can find us both here next week for what is one of my favorite shows of the season, which is the Coach's Hot Seat episode. So next week we'll be breaking down some coaches who are in hot water and if there is a conversation to be had about them losing their job. We hope to see you again here next Wednesday, and we hope you all have a lovely football fall weekend.
Go Phillies.
Have a good night.